Welcome, welcome, welcome in, everyone. Welcome to Care Concierge with Care Patrol. We're so glad you could make it today on a sort of overcast Monday. The temperature is not so hot, which is great. But days like this do make you find it kind of, or at least me, kind of feel like I'm dragging a little bit. So I appreciate y'all being here, being alert and being ready. We're going to talk about paying for care today, which is a fairly lengthy topic, a number of slides to get through. So I don't mean to rush, but I will try and move through it in time to get everything in by the end of the hour. So I'm just letting people in and welcoming people who are just joining to Care Concierge with Care Patrol. Education is the heart of everything that we do here with our clients and with you, our referral partners and friends. We enjoy having the chance to share information that may be helpful to someone in their personal life or even their professional life. And I hope that our topics are helpful to many of you in your professional lives. And certainly I'm sure it's helpful to have the CEU, but I hope the information is actionable for you as well. And we try and choose our topics very carefully and with your input. So we ask in our evaluation, which is required for your certificate, for your input about topics that we may address in the future. So we're awfully glad that you were here today for this. Paying for care. Let me see if I can move us along. Just getting into our housekeeping. As you all know, when you join, your mics are muted. I'm happy to turn your mics on if you care to have a discussion or have a point to make that's just way too much to put in the chat room. But we do ask that you use the chat room to introduce yourselves or ask questions or share ideas or experiences for the benefit of everyone. And I hope that you feel safe in doing so. I hope the chat room is a safe place for you. Now, if you're not familiar with using the chat room in Zoom, take your cursor and move it to the top of your screen or the bottom of your screen. And a little box will appear. And in that box is a little icon with the word chat. Click on that and you can join the conversation. So our CEUs are considered live. We're credentialed by the Board of Nursing, Alabama, and the Alabama Board of Social Work Examiners. And for most states, these CEUs are reciprocal. I know that's not true in New York, and I believe possibly Nevada. But if you're in Georgia or Mississippi, this should transfer. I hope that you're enjoying the series so far. We use an evaluation in order to give the certificate, and that evaluation is done through a website called SurveyMonkey. Many of you, I didn't see your names. I know you've been here before, and I appreciate that. But for those who are new, I'm going to read to you, or if you're not able to see the screen in any way, I'm going to read to you now the SurveyMonkey link. Again, the link in the evaluation is required to receive your certificate. The link is https://www.surveymonkey.com/lowercase r/all uppercase letters T as in Tom, X, P as in Pam, Q, 9, B as in ball, D as in David. One more time, and I have posted, if you've pulled up the chat room, the link, and Diana Tooten has done so again. Thank you, Diana. I'll read it one more time for those who can't see the chat room or can't see the screen. It's https://www.surveymonkey.com/lowercase r/all uppercase letters T as in Tom, X, P as in Pam, Q, 9, B as in ball, D as in David. That's the Survey Monkey link. It's password protected. So if you try and pull it up now, you won't be able to. We give the password out about 12:45, 12:50, depending on where the slide comes up in the presentation. And that way you can then open the survey and complete it. And that way we can show to our Board of Social Work Examiners and the Board of Nursing that you were here, that it was live, and that you participated. And this is the way that we're able to grant you live CEs over Zoom. So, and one last thing, we'll upload, any of you nurses, we'll upload your CEs ourselves to the Alabama Board of Nursing site, as I don't know that y'all can do so anymore. Social workers, I believe you still have that right and privilege. Let's get started. We have objectives, obviously, in our evaluation. I hope you'll answer us fairly and candidly so that we can improve if we need to. And I've been noticing really that we've been around 80% or so of fulfilling our objectives, which really is not good enough for me. So I'm hoping I can start doing a better job. But our objectives today are, number one, to list and discuss the various types of aging care resources and facilities. And then our second objective is to list at least 3 of the options for paying for long-term care. And then lastly, our third objective is to point out the Alabama Medicaid requirements. And this is intentional because on Friday of this week, we will have Bill Nolan, an elder care attorney, and Pam Strickland, a Medicaid specialist, back as guest presenters to discuss Medicaid and Medicaid issues. And we're calling this Medicaid 103. So I'm hoping that y'all who are listening, who can join, will bring some pretty tough questions for Bill and Pam. And I know they would enjoy that. And just, if y'all will, just be participatory with them. And certainly want to have a good discussion for those of you to whom this applies, which, you know, really actually could be all of us if we're thinking personally as well as our professional lives. So let's get started. We're going to do paying for care today. Now, the topic and the slides are from John Holloman, who is another elder care attorney who has served as a guest presenter with us, someone I respect. And John was unable to be here to do this today, as he has a heavy caseload, which is, I'm sure he's pleased about, and I'm pleased for him. But he did give me his permission to use his work and his slides. And so we'll go through that. So some of you, if you've been with us regularly, may have seen John present this. And if you have, I apologize for repeating things, but maybe we can, address it in a way that's a little different and maybe as enriching as well as John's was. So paying for care is the topic. And no matter where we are in our caregiving journey, even if we haven't started it, we need to plan for resources for that journey. And we've discussed in past weeks the cost and the rising cost of elder care. We talked 2 weeks ago about financial risk in retirement when we talked about how Medicare costs are 2.5 times that of the inflation rate. And if you think about that, given, what we've seen with inflation in the last 6 months, that's a sobering statistic. So sobering statistics are that 70%, and we discussed this last week, 70% of all of us over when we turn 65 will require some type of long-term care at some point. 70% of us, 7 in 10 of the folks on this call, there are 49 people, so 1 in 7. That more than that. So 70%, but here's the thing, 20% of the people who end up needing long-term care will need long-term care for 5 or more years. 5 or more years. Now, the average length of stay in the nursing home is 2.5 years, and in assisted living, which is my business, we typically look at a 30-month stay as an average length of stay. But think about living twice that, which 20% of the 70% of us will. Now, the life expectancy of someone diagnosed with Alzheimer's is between 4 and 8 years, depending on who you ask. I've heard higher numbers and I've heard lower numbers. And we know that if you contract the disease earlier in life, the chances that you'll live a longer time with the disease are greater. In 2050, it's anticipated that 14 million Americans will have Alzheimer's. Now, if you look at the population of the US, 350 million or so, about 15 million is less than 5%. And that bears out about 5% of Americans have dementia. And so you may think, well, all things considered, that's a relatively small number, 5%, 14 million. But you've got to remember that Alzheimer's is touching the life of not just the person who has the disease, but of the persons around them. To be a spouse, children, concerned friends, others. But let's say that number is 5 people. I bet it's higher for many. Then you're talking about 70 million people dealing with Alzheimer's out of 350 million. And that is sobering. And that is what's coming. And so when we sit down with someone to talk about what are their options for care, sort of the first thing we have to determine is capacity. And by capacity, which is a legal term, we mean that someone is self-directing, in the words of assisted living regulation, that someone can self-direct their care, that they can protect themselves. Could they, for example, be a witness in a trial? And that is sort of really the litmus test. Would they be a credible witness in a trial? Now, there's age-related, forgetfulness, which would be, where are my keys? And then there's dementia, which is the keys won't open the microwave. And so, if someone says to us, well, mom has a little dementia, our question is, well, has this been diagnosed? Because that changes in a pretty profound way what the options are in Alabama for someone to receive care. If they have been diagnosed, that's one path. And at that point, well, really, regardless, we need to know, is there a durable power of attorney? Is there a healthcare power of attorney? Or has a guardian or conservator been appointed? All of this is germane. And if none of these are true, then we have to do a little work and become the guardian or conservator, because at that point, the power of attorney is no longer a vehicle for us, because the person doesn't have the capacity to sign on their own behalf and protect themselves. And so at this point, then, we're starting to talk with clients about what is the legal ramification of caring for your loved one. And really, then we want to get sort of a deeper dive into what are their assets. For example, was there a farm that grandparent or great grandparent has passed down intended for the children of the client? What are the sources of income? Not just Social Security or pension, but also are there annuities? Are there other vehicles, other stocks, something that pays some annual or quarterly dividend? And then we need to know what actions have they taken with any of the property. For example, are they on the checking account? Are they, did, for example, the grandfather, the client, give his truck to your son? Did mom pay for your divorce? These questions need to be asked. And then the question to follow up is, when was that? Because as you know, when we're looking at, and this is when we're beginning Medicaid planning, we're looking 5 years back into the assets. And so at this point, we begin unveiling, or not unveiling, but just detailing for the client, what their options are around things like Medicaid or other benefits. And generally, we're looking to provide the right and appropriate and safe level of care for as long as possible in that level of care. And then we want to say, okay, you've got to clean up these things in the case of Medicaid planning, for example. And then we want to enable them to do things like apply for the VA aid and attendance pension if they qualify. And so I want to ask each of you now in the chat room, if you will, let me know, do you have an estate plan in place? And by estate plan, I mean simply a will, a do not resuscitate order, a durable power of attorney, anything of that nature. Do you have an estate plan in place? It seems that thus far, the overwhelming response is no. Now, I realize that I am growing older. I'm 55, and so many of you in our audience are younger than me, and I would be less vehement about you having one than if you are my age or older, in which case I feel it is foolish not to have one. It can cause your family a great deal of pain and trouble and money not to have an estate plan. And so if you're younger and you have children, it's a good time. If you're not yet my age, you know, I don't know, we all do things in our own time, don't we? But in general, I think it's good at any age to have an estate plan in place, a will. And if you have a will, you want to update it about every 5 years, certainly every 10. And if you have durable powers of attorney, you want to update those about every 5 years. Because things change. You know, the person that you once felt you trusted, something may have happened in the relationship, and they may no longer be the right person to take on that responsibility. So not only do you need to have an estate plan in place, you need to revisit it and change it as needed over time. And so when we're looking at an estate plan, when we're talking about all of these issues, paying for care, remember, we said that we want to find the right and appropriate and safe level of care for someone. Now, I think I've said this before with y'all, but in general, with care, like with pain medication and hospice, we want to start low and go slow. And by that, I mean, if we can supplement someone's situation with in-home care or possibly daycare some days a week. And for some of you, adult daycare doesn't exist. You're in communities where there is one or isn't one. But for others, there are, you know, many daycares, such as in Birmingham. And these are programs where, much like a Mother's Day out at church or you know, children's daycare at church, you drop your loved one in the morning, you know, between 6 and 7, probably usually, and they stay until you get off work. And while there, they do many of the activities that would be done in a dementia unit, because most of the folks in adult daycare have dementia. And this would be anything from chair exercise to, you know, remember when exercises, to bingo, to coloring, to music, you know, and you know, each day would be different. So there would be a lot going on, crafts, other things. So, you know, if we can supplement someone's existence so they can get to work by dropping a loved one at daycare, and have someone maybe come in the morning or late in the evening to help with bedtime rituals or other things, bathing, those sorts of things, then we feel like someone can lead a productive life, you know, in that setting, in their home with caregivers. Now, not everyone can afford in-home care. For most of us, most counties have Medicaid waiver services wherein in-home care companies agree to the Medicaid rate and then provide up to 720 hours annually of care for someone. And this can be a real godsend. And I would think that the places where this would most often happen and be the case would be places like HUD Housing for the Elderly, which is called the 202 housing, IRS 202 housing, which is rent controlled. And these buildings typically have services like a social worker who can arrange these things. So, for those of us who won't have the ability to pay for higher levels of care and really simply need a safe and secure house with like-minded people around us and some services, then the next step might be to look at HUD 202 housing for the elderly if they qualify financially. If they don't, then we'd be looking at independent living. Now, I know a number of you work in the hospital setting, the discharge setting, in a rehab or otherwise. And so you well aware of independent living. Others may not be as aware. Independent living offers an apartment with weekly housekeeping in which your bed linens are washed and changed. It offers typically a meal plan with either one meal in addition to a continental breakfast, which is your choice then of lunch or dinner. Some places have a full breakfast and lunch or dinner. Some places have a full 3 meals, and yet others have all meals and anytime dining. So they have a sandwich shop within the restaurant, within the community. This is independent living. Many of them have transportation services so that if one needed to get to the doctor or to the bank or to the store or just go for a joyride, there's transportation services. Independent livings generally have a pendant system so that there is a pendant both in the bathroom and somewhere in the apartment, usually in the bedroom near the bed, so that if someone were to feel, bad or a little off or be sick, they could call and have someone attend to them. In addition, in these places, utilities would be paid as part of the monthly rent, including cable. And there would be generally an activities calendar. So there would be, just like an adult daycare, an activities calendar of things to do. And many of these would be led by the residents, such as a bell choir, which one community has. For example, another one has a play group, group of actors who get together and produce plays for one another in the independent living. So there are any number of activities. And the idea behind independent living has always been to attract the younger set. And so the activity calendar is pretty robust for independent living folks. Assisted living offers all of the above that I mentioned for independent living. And so they're very similar. And you might ask, in fact, well, if they all have housekeeping and utilities paid and a call button and activities and a bus, well, I mean, why would I choose independent? Why wouldn't I choose that for my loved one instead of assisted? And here's the reason is that independent living, while they have an emergency call button, do not provide any other services. They provide no help with ADLs. And for many people, in my mind, unless they require or want the socialization, independent living can be a pretty big expense that cuts into your overall expense for care. And so for certain people, it's a non-factor, but for others, I would weigh it carefully before going to assisted living. I don't know, well, it would be up to each case. And so in assisted, there's someone there 24/7 to help you with ADL. So if you need to get out of your bed to use the bathroom at 2 a.m., you pull your call button. If the same were to happen in independent living and you were to pull your call button, nothing would happen. I mean, they would connect with you, but they wouldn't come assist you. Very likely. They might, but legally they shouldn't. And so independent living doesn't offer that, except, and what you see, remember now, independent living is supposed to capture a younger crowd. Boomers are aging out, aging in 10,000 a day every day until 2029. And so the developers of senior living are putting their money into independent living with bigger apartments, the all-day dining, meal plans. They're like little country clubs, really, or little cruise ships on land. And so you see those being built. And the reason they're making that investment is this. Most of them are now offering assisted living type services through a partnership with an in-home care company with whom they've arranged some flat rate fee in order to bring people in to independent living and then provide the services for them in independent living to keep them in independent living for as long as they can. You see? Now, another way that independent livings are using this is to take people who may be appropriate to skilled or may not be appropriate to skilled, but who don't qualify for assisted living. For example, think of someone who might need softened food, or someone with a more complex issue. Independent livings are taking them in with these services and providing sort of quasi-assisted living without the regulation, with no regulation, because there is no regulation of in-home care in Alabama, and there is no regulation of independent living in Alabama. And so they're taking patients who qualify for higher levels of care and caring for them in this sort of hybrid manner. And that is why they're building so many independent livings, because the thinking is in the industry that today's independent living will be tomorrow's assisted living. And tomorrow's assisted living will be, today's assisted living will be tomorrow's nursing home, or vice versa. Today's nursing home, excuse me, I got lost in my metaphor. Today's nursing home will be tomorrow's assisted living. And by that, I mean that assisted livings are taking on more and more acute care cases in most states, not in Alabama. And independent livings likewise are taking on more care through these hybrid relationships. So assisted living provides assistance with activities of daily living as needed. And one of those activities of daily living might be that you were to say to someone, please bring me the paper and my coffee. And so I always think of assisted living as less of the cruise ship on land and more of the five-star hotel where you have a concierge who brings you your coffee. Then memory care in Alabama, which is known as specialty care, or the acronym SCALF, which stands for Specialty Care Assisted Living Facility, that provides all of the help with activities of daily living with a higher staffing level and a nurse 24/7 per the state. And the reason that people are most often in memory care in Alabama is the way that our regulations are written, such that if you cannot recall whether you've taken your medication today or what you take, then you cannot qualify for assisted living. And this is because the assisted living regulations were written by and are still essentially run by the nursing home lobby in the state of Alabama. And this is not, nursing home lobbies are very powerful in many states. Ohio is another. And so, for that reason, most every other state, every colleague of mine working in other states, that's where they take people into assisted living, is people who can't remember their medications. That's why people go to assisted living. In Alabama, you can't go to assisted living if you can't remember your medications. You have to go to specialty care or SCALF or memory care. Now, skilled nursing is a word that's hard to get folks, clients to relate. Skilled nursing, they confuse skilled with SCALF. And so you're sort of reduced to using the nursing home, which everybody pretty much identifies with, or if you're a little older, like me, you could even say the rest home, which is where my grandmother was, the rest home. And then there's the VA nursing home. So any veterans who were honorably discharged can apply to live at the VA nursing home. Those who were decorated in battle or higher ranking will take precedence. And generally the waiting list, it varies, but about 12 months for the VA nursing home. And so for many clients who qualify, we're trying to bridge that 12 months or 15 or whatever it may take by putting them in the right place at the right price so that they can last until the VA nursing home comes open. And so, some of the perils of in-home care would be that the spouse may not really be emotionally able any longer to do this work. Or it could be that the work of having in-home care is simply too much. This was my mother's issue with having the in-home care and to care for my dad who had cancer. My mother felt like first of all, she had to tidy the house up for them to be there. And then she would ask them to do the blinds, which they don't do. And then she would be struggling with what do they do. So she would sit and entertain them and feed them, talk to them. And I find that for a lot of folks, for well-meaning adult children will have in-home care for dad, not realizing it's almost a burden on mom. And she will ultimately become burned out, fatigued, and she may end up passing before dad. Now, if that's not reason enough to reconsider having in-home care, think about the price. So when I started doing this in 2011, I believe it was around $16 an hour. It's now 25. $25 an hour. Now, on the plus side, these folks are background checked. They're bonded, insured. They're someone else's employee, so if they fall, they can't sue you. And that's a benefit, because if you have someone's niece from church and she falls, she can sue you. She can also be you also are on the hook for paying her taxes unless you get a 1099, and that's on you as an employer to have to match that tax you didn't pay with a penalty. And so there's a lot of reasons to either get an agency, or if you're getting an individual, to get a 1099 to do so, to employ someone. Now, you might think, well, they won't do that, or they only take cash. They won't take a check. Well, run away. Don't walk away, run away. This will complicate Medicaid for you in ways you cannot imagine. Do not pay someone cash. Do not pay someone under the table. Do not do it. But consider that whatever you end up paying them, you probably could do assisted living, or certainly independent living, or even memory care for much, much cheaper. In fact, you could live in the nursing home cheaper than you could do 24-hour care, which is $18,000 per month for 24/7 care at $25 an hour. You could live in 3 nursing homes almost for that. So the peril of in-home care really is price, and you pay for one-to-one care. Now, independent living, we discussed it at some length, and I was a little too forthcoming in my reservations, but we discussed those as well. Assisted living, as you all know, just like independent living, is furnished with the belongings of the resident, and this is part of the appeal. It enriches someone's life to have their things around them. People are, for the most part, I've found, prisoners to their things. I have a little moving company. It's a move management company, to be exact, which means I set people's apartments up for them, hang the pictures and all that. And you wouldn't believe, I've been into probably, 125 homes. It helping people to go through their stuff. And it's amazing how people are tied to things without realizing the memory lives within them, not within the object. So having one's things around is very enriching for all of us, most of us. Now, private pay ranges in Alabama for assisted living will start on the low end at $2,300 all inclusive. And don't think because you're not dropping a lot of money, that you're not getting good care. This is great care, the place I'm thinking of. It's an older community. They've paid their mortgage. So you're not paying that. You know, and so you're paying less. The physical plant's not great, but it's interesting. And it's certainly nice enough for me. And you know, it's good care. And I think too many folks think, well, you know, like everything else in life, we've got to have the best, we've got to have the most expensive. No, you don't, because marbles and our marble floors and chandeliers and beautiful art does not care for your loved one. People do. And the people at that $2,300 place have been consistently there, and they're good people. And that's what makes the difference. Now you can spend probably 6,800 at one place I'm thinking of for a 1-bedroom apartment in assisted living. You're not getting a great deal more for that money. You are getting address, and think about it a little bit like any real estate purchase: location, 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 and that exists within the community itself. So you're going to pay more for a room near the dining room or the nurse's station than you are for one at the end of the hall. And that's just how things are. You know, it's real estate, it's a neighborhood, it's a street really that people live on when they live in these places. Now, VA aid and attendance can be used to apply towards assisted living or specialty care, assisted living, memory care, but not towards independent living. And it can be applied towards a nursing home. So do you think, back to the chat room, do you think people living in independent living are younger on average than the people who are living in assisted living? Is this true or false? People living in independent living are younger on average than people living in assisted living. Do y'all believe this is true or false? Please use the chat room. Gail Thrasher says maybe not. False, says Carrie. So true or false, people in independent living are younger on average than people in assisted living. False, false, false. Yes. I see I'm preaching to the choir, y'all. I apologize. I need to be going deeper into this subject. Y'all know what you're talking about. True. The average length or average age in Alabama among my clients in independent living is a little over 83, and for assisted living it's a little under 82. Now that's nuanced, but it's for one of the reasons that one of you said, or a couple of you said, medical reasons. Rebecca Green, that was your point. Yeah. So Rebecca knows that there are people who are living, as I've just described, in independent livings who might be more suited to live in a nursing home, but they can afford to have $18,000 a month care in a $25, $28, $3,800 apartment. And so the people in independent living are not older than the people in assisted living. And why this is important is that the market is building independent living with the attempt to attract a younger set, and yet it's not happening. It is the older and the sicker who go to independent living in Alabama instead of assisted. And so let's get back to this. Skilled nursing, you know skilled nursing, all of you, I'm sure. If you're paying privately today in skilled nursing, you're paying probably at minimum, and of course they're priced daily, not monthly like assisted living. That's a difference. And independent living is priced monthly. Skilled nursing is priced daily, but when you factor it out, you're probably looking on the low end these days of about $7,800, and on the high end about $10,600. Now the Medicaid rates are lower, and the VA benefit will apply unless you're on Medicaid, in which case it reverts to $90 per month. So we talked about the VA nursing homes. They have a long list, but I want to give you the list of those in Alabama. There's the Bill Nichols State Veterans Home in Alexander City. Now, of all of the if you are having someone that needing care and their goal is to somehow end up in the VA nursing home system, the best place to go with the shortest wait list is the Bill Nichols Veterans Home in Alex City. Tut Fan in Huntsville takes longer. You're waitlisted not as long as the Robert L. Howard State Veterans Home in Pell City, which is run by the state, not the federal government. And then there's the William F. Green Home in Bay Minette, which also is a quicker way to get into the skilled nursing VA system. So just if you didn't know that already, and I expect many of you did, now you do. So how do we pay for long-term care? And we're going to have to speed up, y'all. I've got quite a number of slides and I've talked too much. We know Medicare is very limited. And we'll know more about Medicare at the end of the month, because we're going to talk about Medicare Advantage or Disadvantage. We're going to talk about Medicare. It's the best health insurance, I think, that there is, but it pays nothing for long-term care. It pays for acute care and for short-term rehab and skilled nursing only. Long-term care insurance, but I would say of my clients, under 20% off the top of my head have long-term care insurance, under 20%. Not a lot of people carry it. And if you don't carry it, I hope you will reconsider or consider it. We talked about it in another session, and when we talked about looking at a hybrid insurance plan versus looking at a straight long-term care insurance plan. And if you want more about that, you can always go to our website where you register and scroll down and find that CEU and rewatch it if you want. Or if it's not listed there, go to my YouTube, which is Sean Barnes Care Patrol. That's my channel, and it'll be on there, and you can watch it and let me know and get a certificate, or do that for any of them. So we know Medicare only pays 100 days, and that 21 through 80 of those days are paid with a copay, which is currently $194.50 per day. Some Medigap or Medicare supplement cover this. And they may pay for the full 100 days, like, for example, the F plan, which was discontinued and now has been reintroduced, as I understand it. And there's even a G plan, but these allow you the full 100 days at full pay versus asking a copay. Here, Allison Craddock. Can I get the average comparison cost info again? I have some families who ask me those questions. So the average cost, y'all, for independent living, well, not the average, I won't say the average, I'll tell you the range. The range for independent living would be on the low end, $1,350 a month. Now, this is typically what I've, not 202, not rent control. This is independent living in a senior community with all those senior services, $1,350, and you can pay over $4,000 if you want. There's 3 bedrooms at one community, they're in the 5,000s. And now if you're looking for assisted living care, the low end there that we can find is $2,300 all inclusive, which is 3 meals a day, snacks, all help with ADLs, transportation, etc. So, $2,300 all included. And again, if you have a 2-bedroom or one bedroom, you can pay $6,800 in one community. And as they're building newer communities with assisted living, they're building more 1-bedrooms, so those prices will escalate, as you might imagine. And then if you're looking for specialty care, assisted living, or memory care, or SCALF, whatever term you prefer, then on the low end, we can find a companion room at $2,600. Now that's not in Birmingham, that's in the Florence area. So if you have someone who lives, near enough, If that's not onerous to them, then that's a good set. Otherwise, we're looking around 3,600, which is multiple places, again, in sort of smaller places around Alabama. If we're looking in Birmingham for specialty care, for a shared room, we're looking at about 3,600. And for a private room, we're starting around 4,700. Now we can pay over 7,000 for memory care. And then you probably know, Allison, but when you're looking at skilled care, you're looking at generally somewhere in the neighborhood of $250 per day or more. And you look at the newer ones like Aspire, the Aspires are, over 300, 310, 320 a day. And so, that adds up over 30 days, 30 and a half. That's how we figure it. So, long-term care insurance we discussed before, but again, I just want to make the point one more time. What are you going to do if you don't have it? And I'm serious. What are you going to do when the cost of assisted living, which are now what I just listed, let's say the average is 4,300, which is probably true. 4,300 times 30 months, 36 months. That's a lot of money you need to be saving. And if you don't have it, why not spend $3,800, the same amount annually, on a long-term care insurance policy that will reward you with 160,000 or more in benefits? You can never save as much as they'll pay you, and probably in the same time. And if you can do both, great. Now, when you're looking for long-term care insurance, again, if you have life insurance, go to your agent, talk to them about something they might offer. You want a hybrid policy. If you don't have life insurance, you and your spouse get a first to die policy with a carve out for long-term care insurance to be used for either of you. Make sure you pay attention to the definitions, who can receive care and who can provide care. And lastly, the elimination period and how that is successfully, met. So those are the things to think about with long-term care insurance. Now, I won't go because we're running low on time. Instead, I want to ask you a question. Do you have long-term care insurance for when you need aging care? Yes or no? Do you have? Not yet. No, no, no. Oh, thank you, Miss Scott. You're new for us. Sharon Chestnut. No. Allison. No, no, no. All right. Well, y'all, the age to get it is about 55. So if you're not yet 55, don't sweat it yet. But if you are younger than that and you do have children, again, I would encourage you to create an estate plan, a will, at least durable powers of attorney, and look at some sort of life insurance policy that will pay your spouse and children should something happen. First to die is the best way to go with that policy. It costs more, but think about what it means. Well, Mary, I know you're the age that you list here in the chat room, and it is high, but I mean, in 5 years, it's probably going to be $6,000 for assisted living. And you may be someone that can do that, and I hope you are. But for me, I don't see how I can get around it. And the problem for me is, y'all, I can't get it because I have high blood pressure. I've tried to get it and haven't been successful. So no one has it yet, looks like. So I deal with things that are private pay, assisted living, independent living, specialty care, assisted living. Now, here we've listed the average cost of assisted living at $4,000. It's really kind of low, I think. And the average cost of the nursing home is really higher than what is listed here. And as you know, nothing really much is included. And if you have too many assets, you have to pay privately. So the VA we've discussed before, but let's just run through it real quick. If you, oh, Gail, you have a great comment. Let me hold up. Gail says dementia is the game changer. You have to have care outside the home eventually if you get dementia. And Sarah, no, you did not miss the code word. The code word I will give now, the slide is coming up. The code word is Medicaid. And that's intentional. I want y'all to be here Friday when Bill and Pam are here. And we intended to get to discuss much about Medicaid today. And I'm just not going to get there. I apologize. So let's go real quickly through the wartime VA aid and attendance pension is now up, and it's gone up a lot, y'all, to $24.31 per month for the veteran, and for the spouse up to $13.17 per month. So that's quite a bit of money, especially for the remaining spouse, which is in most cases who we get this pension for, is not the veteran who's long since passed, but for the remaining spouse. Now, if you need assistance with activities of daily living and you can't afford assisted living, then you've got a problem, because then you've got to qualify medically, meaning you have to have a condition or diagnosis that requires a nurse and doctor to supervise your care 24/7, or you've got to piece together something like we discussed in the independent living with sitter type service, or home with sitters, or home with your daughter. You know, that's Medicaid doesn't pay for assisted living in Alabama, one of 4 states, I believe, in which it doesn't. And again, that is the influence of the nursing home lobby, because look at it, y'all. What would be cheaper on the state? Paying assisted living rates at $4,000, $2,300, $4,800, or paying nursing home rates at $7,800 per month? I mean, you know, it just doesn't make sense. So we want to sort of address pretty quickly Alabama Medicaid. As you know, Medicaid is a federal program, but it's administered by the state. And so in order to get Medicaid, and this will be a primer for Friday, in order to get Medicaid, you must be a U.S. citizen or a qualified alien, meaning maybe you're seeking Medicaid, or citizenship rather. You must live in Alabama, so you can't apply for Alabama Medicaid in Florida because you intend to move to Alabama. You must already live in Alabama. Think about that. If you're going to a nursing home, you must already live in the state to apply for Medicaid. So you must go to the nursing home with cash to get in while you wait for Medicaid, which these days is taking about 2 to 3 months for turnaround, which is really pretty quick. Maryland, 4 years to get Medicaid. So while we may, sometimes complain about Alabama, in terms of getting folks on the pension, folks are on top of that in this state. It's just what it covers, which is lacking, because it doesn't cover assisted living. They've raised the minimum income for someone to be on Medicaid. It's now $25.23, and that allows us to include a lot more people than before, when it was just over $2,000, 5, 6, 8 years ago. But it's still the assets, countable resources, have to be below 2,000. Now, just to be clear, this doesn't include your grandfather's clock. This is only things like a house, car, land, stocks, bonds, IRAs, pensions, etc. So that's what has to be below, or at home, of course. So some false beliefs. Why should I care? My parent has no assets. No, you should care if your parent bought your son a truck, or if you borrowed $3,000 from mom and haven't paid it back. You might really want to do that. You're going to do it anyway. In fact, my spouse and I have a prenuptial agreement. Doesn't matter. Alabama Medicaid doesn't care. It doesn't honor a prenuptial agreement that says that you won't pay for your spouse's care, even though he was 25 years older than you when you married him. It doesn't matter. You're still in the eyes, the crosshairs of Medicaid. My spouse and I have separate accounts. So what? Medicaid counts your total assets. They don't look at your individual accounts. My sister took money from mom. I hear this all the time. Usually my sister is an alcoholic or a drug addict, or my sister has problems. You know, that's usually the explanation. And it's true, I'm sure. Medicaid is going to come to you and or your sister as sponsors and your mother for that $40,000. And you're going to have to pay it back, which means if you're paying, you know, 8 to 10,000 a month, then you've got to pay 4 to 6 months of pay, private pay, before you can even think about Medicaid. My husband and his brother bought their mom's vehicles and used Kelley Blue Book to figure the amounts. That's what Gail said. Yeah, thank you, Gail. We do want, and this is one thing I'll tell y'all that we've got as a resource now at Care Patrol, is we've got a fellow that will buy your mom's house as is and give you, get this, the market rate for the house. Now, there are plenty of people that will buy houses. I buy houses. That's on every street corner, isn't it? Or every park bench. I buy houses. That's not what I'm talking about, because they buy houses at what they value them at, what they value them at as is current. And that may be below the tax assessed value, which means you've got a penalty with Medicaid. Do not want a penalty with Medicaid. You want someone buys the house at market value and then flips it and makes a little bit more than market. So he makes not much money per house, but it adds up and it protects our clients. Mom felt sorry for my brother. He's been out of work. Well, your brother's going to have to come up with that money. And let me ask you all this. Do you think Medicaid will still be around when you need aging care? Yes or no? Remember, we're going to run out of money. And so unless we do something and fund Medicaid in Alabama, we're going to run out of money. We still haven't taken the tax credits from Obamacare. It was criminal. So many children in Alabama and aging people could have benefited from Medicaid expansion. Most of you are pessimistic, like me. In this case, I'm usually an optimist, but in this case, I'm not sure Medicaid will be there by the time that I need Medicaid. It's 58 after, y'all. I'm sorry we didn't get to the other pieces of this. Again, the CEO code word is Medicaid with a capital M, as it would be spelled. Capital M, Medicaid is the code word. So again, we talked about you doing estate planning. I want you to look at these documents: durable power of attorney, healthcare power of attorney, advanced healthcare directive or living will, HIPAA authorization, last will and testament, and revocable living trust. These are all things that you need to think about and investigate as part of and while you create your estate plan. And here I want to show you this before we go. Here's the SurveyMonkey link again, y'all. Let me post it for you. Posting it in the chat room. There it is. Also, look at this link. If you will, you can either you can't click on this in the PDF I send you, but you can Google Worry Less and Age Better with Benefits Checkup, or you can Google National Council on Aging, NCOA Benefits Checkup. It's a little exercise that'll take you through and help you to set a budget and a plan to care for. The link shouldn't be closed. No, I'll figure out the link, y'all. Give me a second. In fact, let's just escape this. Well, I can't get out, but I'll fix the link. Let's see. No, you didn't miss the code word. It's Medicaid. The link is working for Rebecca or Ashley. Yeah, the link that I put in the chat room should work because I took that from the copy link screen. And so again, y'all, the NCOA, National Benefits Checkup, this is not the code word. I did not change this. Do not look at this. The code word is Medicaid. I want to thank John Holloman of Bradford and Holloman for letting me use his slides and for the information. And I want to thank each of you for being here. We've run over. We'll load your nursing hours soon. The ABN McKinsey is your Alabama Board of Nursing number. So if you're not a nurse, you shouldn't have to use it. But here, let me read one more time. Here is the survey link. Let me read it for y'all. https:// www.surveymonkey.com /r/ Q, M as in Matt, V as in Victory, D as in David, Y as in yellow, Z as in zoo, Y as in yellow. This is the correct link. The link listed on this screen is incorrect. The link in the chat room is correct. Oh no, Rebecca, so which is correct? Because the one I copied may be incorrect. I may have gotten the wrong one. What was posted was the wrong one. Thank you, Adrian. Well, y'all can see my challenge with posting. Rebecca has the correct one. So Rebecca, I'm going to read Rebecca's, where's your link, Rebecca? Rebecca's link. https://www.surveymonkey.com /r/ T as in Tom, X, P as in Pam, Q, 9, B as in ball, D as in David. One more time, https://www.surveymonkey.com /r/ all uppercase letters, T as in Tom, X, P as in Pam, Q, 9, B as in ball, D as in dog. Ms. Gamble, the social work number, if you're a social worker, that would be your license number. If you're a nurse, just put not applicable or skip it. Or if you're another, clinical, like a physical therapist, just put your number in the other column. Regardless of what you are, you'll receive a certificate, and nurses will be loading yours onto the website for you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for participating. I love that you guys are interactive. I love seeing so many of you whose names I know, and I welcome those of you who are new today. Please forgive my technical difficulty, which is sometimes an issue, unfortunately for me, but hopefully not too much of a distraction for you. Thank you again. Y'all have a great week, and do make plans to join us on Friday when Bill Nolan and Pam Strickland will discuss Medicaid issues. We're calling it Medicaid 103. And so come and bring your questions, if you will, on Friday of this week. And until then, y'all have a great time and a great week. And I'll end this meeting as soon as I stop having technical difficulty. Breathe.